Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be covering a pretty hot topic in the hobby community, or the Warhammer community I should say, and that's going to be contrast paints.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Alright, so we're just going to get right into it. Brand new contrast paints.
Yep.
You might have heard of them if you have not been living under a rock for the past couple months. GW has hyped these paints up to be something incredible, something that will shave down on a lot of painting time.
Yeah, they've been giving these paints to a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of Instagram people, pretty early. A lot of professional painters have actually been using them too.
Right.
There's a lot of hype around it when they use language such as game-changing, you know, revolutionary.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty eye-catching, so...
Exactly.
Obviously, we were both waiting to get our hands on it and see what we could do. And
yeah, we're not that big yet.
Yeah.
But basically, the gist of it is we're going to be talking about, do we think they're overhyped? Because me personally, I do think that they were a little overhyped just because of how Games Workshop has advertised it.
That's fair.
They had a bunch of, painters, like people from these big YouTube channels, like Chris from Wargaming and people like that. They brought them on to say basically, this paint, it's amazing, it's game changing, it'll cut down on so much time, it'll you can paint your Horde armies faster, and it's basically so easy that you will never have unpainted models because of how easy it is.
Yeah.
Right?
And I guess with all those points that they made, like anything that they're going to advertise, there's some truth in it, but obviously you're going to get, at the end of the day, you're going to get what you put into it with these paints.
Exactly.
And I think what a lot of people have been saying, including the both of us, is it is another tool in your toolbox.
Right.
And I really like that because, you got to practice with it. You have to realize which paints are better than others. You have to, kind of just use it as a tool and really just use it in conjunction with other paints, I think.
Exactly.
But I know Nico has a few opinions about some of the things, and we've both been experimenting on various models, so we just wanted to get into some of the things that we've been doing.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like I said, they're overhyped, but they're useful. I think that personally, for me, I think they're used best when used with other paints.
Yeah, I agree.
Not just all contrast, because when you do all contrast, I feel like it's really messy, and there were times when I was trying to do the correction method where you kind of paint over with the base color that you sprayed on, but it wasn't giving me as good of a result as when I first sprayed it on.
So for instance, I know Nico, he's painted 2 units of guardsmen for his Gene Stealer Cold.
Right, exactly.
So technically they're brood brothers.
Yeah.
But what colors did you use, and what did you use contrast-wise, and what did you use non-contrast-wise?
Contrast-wise, I used Basilicanum Gray for the armor, and I used Templar Black for one squad's fatigues, and I did Leviathan Blue for the other.
Cool.
Just because, I had the paints and I just wanted to test out how they work.
Sure.
So what I found is that it did cut down a lot of time. Painting one guardsman probably took me, I want to say 30 minutes.
That's really good, yeah.
From start to finish. But another thing that I found kind of interesting was that they said it was going to be super easy, but I mean, I've painted a lot, I'd say that I'm fairly experienced with painting, and I found that painting specifically with contrast paints, like the gray specifically, to really get the result that I wanted, I really had to work it around the model.
Yeah, I felt that way too, because I was painting some of these Lord of the Rings miniature. They're not Lord of the Rings, Games Workshop company, but they're for Lord of the Rings. And there's a lot of sleeve areas where on their shirts it kind of goes into their arm.
Exactly.
And with the consistency of the contrast paint, you still have to be pretty careful, especially because if you're gonna apply the contrast paint to the other area, the corrections, it's not difficult, but you just have to be mindful of that. My understanding of the paint when I first started using it is basically what I feel like the consistency is. It's like a thicker wash.
Yeah, exactly.
And the way it runs, it doesn't run as much as a wash. So if you leave it there for a while, all the wash isn't gonna the wash falls to the bottom of the model.
Right.
There is still splotchiness with the contrast paints, but it's a lot more manageable.
Yeah.
And you just have to be careful about those things.
Yeah, I totally feel that. Especially with those guardsmen here, because they have their shoulder pads. Those are big flat panels. And again, I feel like when it comes to the flatter areas, that's where they really, really struggle. Because honestly, I saw a lot of all the stuff that like the tutorials Games Workshop was putting out with like how to do like all contrast paints, how to paint like using only contrast. Like, I think it's cool that like they show that like it has that ability, but I definitely would excuse me, I definitely would not recommend doing that, just because like I feel like the result it gives is like it's subpar. Like, if I was to paint a Space Marine, say, with only contrast paints, I wouldn't like be happy putting that out on the table. Personally,
with only contrast paints.
With only contrast paints.
Got it.
If I was to use contrast paints to paint maybe like the armor, and then I would fill in the details with just lead belcher and like you know, some of the regular.
No, I get what you mean.
That's
now,
fine.
Yeah.
Which is why I think that's what the contrast paints really are for. I think they're for speeding up certain steps. I don't think they're for painting whole models.
I definitely agree with that.
You can get away with painting whole models, depending on the model.
Yeah, and it also just depends what you want to get out of the model too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, for us, we usually just go probably a little above tabletop. We like want it to look good, but we also kind of put a little extra love into some of the models we like, or we just wanted to make it look a little bit better. Right. But I think with the models we painted with the contrast paints, we found ourselves doing, I would say, about 70% of the model with contrast, and we come back with like regular colors, like the regular line of paints.
Right.
For like the face, the face I would do contrast too sometimes, but for obviously the metal.
Yeah, flesh isn't bad.
Yeah, the flesh actually is pretty cool.
It's decent.
But I think also with the contrast paints, especially for a lot of people who, you know, are just starting, you're probably doing Space Marines because that's like the big army to start. GW really wants you to start with that because it's very all comers. I think if you're gonna do contrast paints with it, like, if you just want to do the minimum after that, I think it needs at least a dry brush just to bring the colors back down. And just, you have to be careful about the splotchiness too, because there's a lot of armor panels. And I did do some testing with a bunch of different paints over white as well as metallic, which we'll get into. But I think the biggest thing is you just have to be careful about the splotchiness, and you have to be careful about it bleeding into other spaces where you don't want that paint to be.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, like if you have a model that like you can get away with using contrast paints for most of it,
I think Tyranids would be really good.
Tyranids are interesting. I would do it definitely for the flesh. I don't know about the carapace, because I've seen a few videos of people trying it on the carapace, and
it's just too flat.
It's a little too flat.
No,
but yeah, Tyranids would be good. You know, demons.
Oh yeah, demons.
If you're a demons player, oh great, wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I feel like I've like talked like a little bad about contrast paints, but honestly, to be completely honest, like I love them. Like they're exciting. It's exciting to have a new method of painting. It's exciting I can get so many guardsmen done.
Yeah.
In so few time. Basically for these guys here, so I went for Brood Brothers because you know I played Gene Stealer Cult. What I used to do when I painted my other Brood Brothers is that I would leave a little excess agrax on there when I washed them to give them a little dirty look. With these contrast paints, when I put them on there, they kind of settle into that little dirtyish look anyways.
They give you that effect.
I really do like the grimy-ish appearance they give off. Again, I do like that it just saves so much time. Yeah, so for the Brood Brothers that I have here, I really enjoy the kind of grimy look. I would try to achieve that effect on purpose.
Sure.
And I think that the gray here, the way it settles into the armor, actually does that perfectly. So for me, it was perfect. I'm also a big fan of the white, because it just makes painting white armor just so much faster. Like before, white was something that nobody ever wanted to do. Like it would be good in theory, but then you figured out how you had to paint it, and nobody ever wanted to do white. Now you just throw the Apothecary white onto, I would say, Grey Seer, because personally I like how it goes over Grey Seer a little better than Wraithbone.
And that's the darker one, right?
Yeah, Grey Seer is the darker one.
Okay.
Wraithbone is kind of like an actual white. Grey Seer is a little more like gray.
Yeah, and to be just to be clear, I wasn't able to get any of the sprays. All the local shops like around me don't have them right now. So I've been doing all my contrast over either the white spray from GW, so I think Corax White, or the metallic spray, Bolt Gun Metal. So I've been doing it a little differently, so I'm kind of interested to see once I can get my hands on one of the 2 sprays GW has been advertising for contrast and see how much difference it is. Because when I just kind of look, I don't think it's going to be that much different, but there might be.
Yeah.
It might change I would say the tone of some of the colors.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't really know how much different it's going to be. So I'm really curious to see if, I know some people have been saying you don't really need those sprays, but it could give you a different effect depending on what you're going for.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Who knows?
I think it would really only affect like the tones of the colors. When it comes to consistency and how it goes over the model,
I don't think
I feel like it wouldn't change that much, but just like how like warm or cool a color is.
Sure.
I think that's what its biggest effect would be.
Okay, cool.
So the lead belcher, putting contrast over lead belcher does give you some interesting results actually.
So
I'm quite interested in that.
I was pretty curious about that because I saw some other people doing that, and my friends were sending in group chats showing like photos of different colors over metallic. And one of my original armies back in like 5th, 6th edition was a Space Marine army that was kind of like a metallic-y purple because I would dry brush it with lead belcher to make it look battle damage. So I wanted to try the Vulpes Pink, which is honestly when you do it over the metallic, it kind of comes out to more of a light purple. And then I would just hit it with a dry brush, and it actually looks really cool. And some of the colors, me and Nico were talking, like, they're not all created equal. Some of the colors, like, have a different consistency and go over smoother. Like, because on my white experimentation, like, this, what is it called? Warp Lightning Green went over the white way better than the Aethermatic Blue, in my opinion. But, you could change some of the stuff with Lamian Medium or the other paint that they released to mix in.
Yeah. But that's actually how... I heard that's how some people just highlight it.
Oh, really?
Is they just you take the base color and you mix it with whatever color you're using, and you can use that as a highlight. I haven't done that personally because I don't know, when I think about contrast, I don't really think of like tabletop plus quality. I don't really think of highlighting on top of it. You definitely can. I did with the white because I think that just makes the white pop a little bit more.
Sure.
I think more of like, I want to put something out on the table.
Yeah, and I think, like we said before, it's just another tool, so you're going to get whatever you put into it. So you can use it for anything, because I know Nico just said he highlighted his white for his Eldar Guardian.
Right.
And what I also did for he's pretty much an Emperor's Children looking Chaos Marine. With the armor I did the contrast Vulpes Pink over the metallic, and then I dry brushed it with Screamer Pink. And then I highlighted some of like the really sharp edges with Screamer Pink too. So you can take it as far as you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, honestly, we were talking too, like when you look at the model for like over metallic, it doesn't even look like, you wouldn't think it's a contrast paint.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I would think it's like a metallic spray or something. So you can get some really cool effects if you take the contrast paint to the next level after that.
Right.
So there's just like a lot of options, and I don't know. I would say I have like 6 of the paints so far right now, or no, 8 of the paints, and over metallic, the Vulpes Pink looks really cool. The Warp Lightning is really cool too, and just some other colors I would say. Snakebite Leather is really good. I don't know if you've tried that yet.
I have not tried it. I've only tried I think 3 right now.
Okay.
Maybe 4, I guess technically, because I tried putting Ultramarine Blue onto the Guardian before I just settled with the red.
No, I feel you.
But yeah. I mean, the paints that I've tried is Black Templar, Leviathan Blue, and
Basilicum
Gray. Those all I really enjoy. I think a tip for if you're going to use contrast paints is always do the lighter colors first.
Okay, yeah.
Because if you can, well, like essentially, if I put the gray down, right, and then I put the black down, the black will hide the gray easily.
Sure.
So a little something less to worry about. Also, I know, like we said earlier, we're fans of using it in conjunction with other paints, not going all contrast. If I'm painting something, I would recommend the small details that you're going to kind of mess up on. I would use Citadel paints on those. Yeah. Like with the Guardsmen, I know I said I didn't use the Guilliman flesh on their fleshy parts, which you absolutely can. It doesn't look that bad, but the reason I didn't do that was because I kind of knew that I was going to get splotches on them, and I thought it would like, you know, instead of having to re-go over it with a coat and then put the Gilliman flesh on there, I'd rather just throw down Cadian flesh tone and then agrax earthshade on top of that.
Yeah, because you definitely have a lot more control with the normal
exactly
paint.
And same with the metallics, because there is no metallic contrast paint.
Yeah,
they say put basilicanum gray on there, and like it's passable, but I personally think that the metallics just look better anyways.
Yeah. Just from my first opinion, I don't think I would do the contrast.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do a metallic.
Yeah.
Like, try to do a metallic with a contrast.
Definitely not. But yeah, I just think that it just looks better if you have regular paints in there. You know, I guess that's the kind of bottom line that I'm trying to get into here.
Just do contrast as well as normal paints.
Yeah. Like use them together. I know we're trying to drive the nail home. But yeah, and honestly, if you do that. Once you base them and put them in a big unit like this, like I know I have a big unit, Dill just has single models, but I kind of wanted to show what they look like in a unit, and in a unit they're really not that bad.
No, and we actually put one of them. Obviously, it's hard to see from here, but we'll throw in some other footage with it.
Yeah.
But we threw in one of the models he painted regular into the mix of the gray and black ones, and from a distance,
fits right in.
It's hard you can't tell which one's which, and obviously we can tell when we look from close because we're the ones who put it in there, and it's kind of hard to move your eye away from that.
Exactly.
But honestly, like I think there's a lot of certain models in the Games Workshop range as well as other ranges, like Horde style armies, that are really going to benefit from these paints, especially if you use them in conjunction, like we keep saying, like. Yeah, contrast will get you, like, I would say, this is just arbitrary, but to here, but if you add more paints to it, like the flesh or the tone, like, and do a little dry brushing or highlights, you can really take it to a level where people can't even tell that you actually use contrast
Exactly,
paints.
And not that much more time. Because honestly, with the time that I'm saving with the contrast paints, it makes me think, okay, well, I've got a little bit extra time. I can go back and highlight the stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, from tabletop standard, I think that these guys are actually better than my Cadians.
Yeah, they look really good.
My Cadians that I did, I know they've never appeared on the channel, but when I set out to paint my Cadians, I was like,
this is gonna be
real quick. Mm-hmm. It's just gonna be base colors and agrax earthshade wash, and that's all it was. And you know, from tabletop they look decent, but because of how the contrast paints work, like because they kind of highlight themselves a little bit. They aren't actual highlights, but just the way that the colors settle. You can get some. They look good.
Yeah, they look really good. They look
good.
It's really hard to tell that they're painted with like a contrast paint or some sort of paint that I would say is just an easier way of doing things.
Right.
Because you know when we saw all this advertising for the paint, it's kind of like hard to believe that this paint is gonna create all these shadows and do so much that takes 2 or 3 steps usually,
while still having like a good coat.
Exactly.
And like we've kind of seen that with the Space Marines, like. It doesn't really give too good of a coat. Yeah. Unless you use the metal, which again is
because over the metal,
that's the biggest game changer.
It's a whole different. It's like a whole different paint.
Yeah,
and you still have to watch out for the splotching. Yeah. But as long as you put same with a wash, you just push the the really heavy places where the pigment is around. You can really fix it, and then after a dry brush and a highlight. And you don't even have to do that much highlight. I don't highlight everything. I just highlight the places people are actually going to look at. And you just dry brush the whole model. It's super easy to do.
Right.
And, it's got me excited, and it's got Nico excited too, because we have these 2 models in the middle.
It's a lot of fun, honestly. Yeah. Just learning a new paint system, it's cool. And it's got me wanting to paint more.
Yeah, it makes you excited to paint.
And honestly, there are some people out there that don't even... I've never even touched a paintbrush that are picking it up because of how easy it was.
It's just less intimidating.
Exactly, it is. And honestly, I think that the biggest thing about these paints is that before, when you started a Horde army, the biggest hurdle was painting them because you're I don't want to do that many models, but I painted these 10 guardsmen in about the same time as I could paint 5 Space Marines.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that if you have a Horde army, you really shouldn't be worried about having to paint them anymore because of this new product. Mm-hmm. I compared them to texture paints because I thought when texture paints came out, they were just absolutely game changing.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
before people would, you know, put sand on the base and then maybe corkscrews, and that was kind of like
That's like the only way.
The range of bases that you got back in the day.
Yeah.
But then the texture paints came out, and suddenly you're seeing like lava bases, like swamp bases, and like with all these cracks in them, and it was just the coolest thing. I don't think contrast paints are as revolutionary as those texture paints in terms of like how raw, like how much more creative you can be with them.
Sure.
I guess, or how good it actually looks, because the texture paints like look amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah,
I would say I disagree a little bit with. I wouldn't say the contrast paints are necessarily like revolutionary.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to open the doors to a lot of new painters, as well as just creating like a new tool for a lot of. I just think there's going to be a lot of different looking armies now that are a lot easier to paint.
Yeah.
Because I think with contrast paints, what I've seen just from the limited colors I've used, the brighter colors look really good for like Space Marines and stuff like that. But on the flip side, Nico's Guardsman, where he's using a lot of darker colors, it's hard to tell that it's even like different.
Exactly.
But I think with the brighter colors, it makes like painting those super bright colors that would take a lot of layers building up, because you have to paint it thin.
Yeah,
I think you're going to see a lot more brighter style armies, because it's just way easier to paint.
Yeah.
And it's going to take like 2 or 3 steps to make it look pretty good.
Yeah.
That's not that bad. So
no, not bad at all.
I guess only time will tell.
Yeah.
What people do with the contrast paints, because
and I think people are definitely going to get creative out there. Like, people have already been getting really creative.
Yeah, just the fact of doing it over metallics is like a game changer.
Yeah, I know, it really is. Like,
I didn't even think about that.
It goes over really well. Really well on metallics. Like, the complaints that I had about the Space Marines, like how it doesn't go well over their big flat armor panels, it does go well over if you spray them with lead belcher. Granted, you'll have a metallic look, and that's not something that everybody's going to be into. But, you know, maybe if it's something you are into, like, you know, you're in luck, because suddenly these things just got way easier to finish, you know, put out on the table. So yeah, overall, contrast paints gets 2 thumbs up from me. I know I said it was overhyped and I complained about it a little bit, but like, it's just so useful. You know, it's just useful to have. It's not going to paint your models for you. And it's not, like, even if you do use them, it's not going to be, like, a super good standard, you know. Like,
but it saves a lot of time.
Yeah, it does save a lot of time. And if you use them in conjunction with the other paints, like we keep saying, it doesn't look bad. Like, looks good, you know.
Yeah, and it's
like,
just
maybe even a little above, like, what is, like, tabletop standard, you know.
Yeah, definitely. It's just there's so many times where, like, oh, I have to paint all their ammo pouches. I have to paint it brown, then I have to do a wash.
Yeah,
But now, if it's primed white, it's just snakebite leather.
Exactly.
Done.
Just throw it on there and it's done.
Because no one's going to, if you don't really care, like, we're not saying you don't care, but no one's gonna like pick up your model and look at the ammo pouches. They're gonna look at the other stuff. So you don't need that much time on those type of stuff.
I mean, more often than not, people are gonna not be interested in trying to win a golden demon.
Yeah, they just want their army to look cool on the table.
Nobody like wants to play with plastic models. So having this as an option, you know, is just get a little bit of color on there. It's good to have.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, 2 thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I agree. 2 thumbs up, and I'm excited to see what everyone else does, and I'm excited to just try more of the range as well, because I know Nico, he's only tried 3 of the paints.
Yeah, Seraphon are going to get done. We're getting into Sigmar.
Yeah, we'll get into Sigmar. I have a small troll army and some Stormcast stuff, but I think the most exciting thing is with these contrasts, and especially with the upcoming Apocalypse release, Nico will be getting into Eldar, and then with my metallic Space Marines.
People like me not that much already. You gotta make me more.
Some Chaos Space Marines, probably Emperor's Children mixed with Renegades and Heretics. Because I'm not sure yet if I want them to do specifically Emperor's Children or, the only good Eldar is a dead Eldar.
Yeah, it's true.
But
I complain about Eldar a lot.
It'll be exciting to see these 2 new armies.
Wraiths are cool. I'm just gonna say it. I think not the Necron Wraiths. Wraith Guard. Wraith Guard are cool. Great unit in Dawn of War 2.
Dude, shout out to that game.
That game's the best Warhammer game, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't want to get into that. Maybe one day I'll talk about Dawn of War 2, but not today.
Alright guys, well thanks for hearing us rant about the contrast paints. If you liked the video, like it, comment, subscribe. We'll be releasing a lot more videos soon, so stay tuned and stay tuned.
Tell us what you think about contrast paints. Like, having that dialogue is always cool. And I know our audience isn't super huge as of right now, but, you know, hearing those voices, you know,
yeah, we like to interact, so.
Yeah.
Let us know, guys. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.
Peace.